Paratmanamekam Jagadbijamadyam Niriham Nirakaram Onkar Vedyam Yato Jayate Palyate Yena Vishwam Tamisham Bhajeli Yate Yatra Vishwam. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Dear devotees, so we have been studying the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and we have finished the first 34 verses. This 10th chapter essentially deals with the special divine manifestations. Purpose: to facilitate meditation. That's an important point. What is the purpose of presenting all this so-called special manifestations of the divine? It is meant to facilitate meditation, which is indispensable when it comes to sadhana. When it comes to experiencing the supreme reality, mere study of shastras won't do. Mere study of books won't do. Study has to be followed by profound thinking to bring about clarity in the mind, and that should be followed by a perfect state of mind which is fully absorbed in the reality. That complete absorption is what is known as meditation, in which there is no contrary idea apart from the supreme truth. It's a wonderful state, even to think about it, to bring about this kind of an interior state where there is no other existing apart from the supreme reality. That is what is samyak darshanam. And to be steadfast in that samyak darshanam, that is what Sri Krishna wants to facilitate for you and me. So in verse number 7, Krishna had told. What did he say? He said that etam vibhutim yogam cha mama yo vetti tattvataha. Very important point. Before I take the verse 35 and the rest of the verses, let us just go back and revisit the central principle of this entire chapter. Sri Krishna says, anyone who knows exactly, tattvata, this word comes dozens of times in this Bhagavad Gita. Not understanding according to your imagination or my imagination, but as the truth is. So Sri Krishna is saying that anyone who knows the truth as it is, tattvata. So what is the truth? Etam vibhutim yogam cha. 2 words. My omnipresence and my omniscience. 2 things. Vibhuti refers to how this divine is present in everybody equally, not more, not less. It is a wonderful principle, a life-transforming kind of a vision when it comes to the actual application of this in our day-to-day life. It transforms all our responses. It makes the mind free from all worries. It is a profoundly impactful kind of an awareness which can be generated with the help of the Shastra and the Guru. So Sri Krishna is saying that anybody who understands me as I should be understood, I means Parabrahman, nothing else. How? My omnipresence and my omniscience. What happens? Second line says, So, avikampena yogena yujyate. This person gets connected with me through this right vision. Samyak darshana. Through this right vision. What is the right vision? I am present in everybody. And that which is present in everybody is also omniscient. It is consciousness. It is not matter. So, anyone who is steadfast in this vision, now what will happen? Now, what is this vision actually? What we are talking about? Omnipresence and omniscience. The next verse beautifully Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. So beautiful. So what is this right vision? Aham sarvasya prabhavo. I am the origin of everything, every creature, every single bubble is emerging from the infinite, indescribable ocean. That ocean which defies description, from that indescribable ocean emerges every single bubble and wave. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Matta sarvam pravartate. So beautiful. And all the pravartanam which we see on the surface, pravartanam means all the activity. The bubbles are all active, moving here and there, appearing and disappearing. All this is happening owing to the presence of the ocean. Can we imagine the bubbles moving here and there without the base of the ocean? It is because of the presence of the ocean these bubbles have even some existence. The bubbles don't even exist without the ocean. Now see, we have to connect ourselves with the reality. This is the point. We do not even exist without that basis of consciousness. So Sri Krishna is saying, Aham sarvasya prabhavo. I, that consciousness, is the very base from where everything emerges. And all the activity which we see on the surface, it is owing to my presence, pravartanam. Without me, nothing can move here. Iti matva bhajante. 2 words. So experiential. Iti matva. Matva means gyatva. Gyatva means jnanam. And bhajanam. Knowing and devotion. Knowing and worship. Matva and bhajanam. Gyatva and bhajanam, they go hand in hand. So the first thing we should understand, this jnanam and bhakti are not two different things at all. This misunderstanding, this myth should be busted. They are one and the same thing. A person who has got perfect devotion will also know. And a person who knows exactly tattvata as the truth is will be a great devotee. You can't help it. There is no other alternative. Where there is perfect knowledge and vision, the right vision of the supreme reality, their devotion is bound to be there. You just can't escape this position. And wherever there is true devotion, that person will be seeing that same entity everywhere. Mirabai, who is known to be the queen of bhaktas, Bhakta, she is devoted, bhajanam, and her ishta is what? Giridhari, Sri Krishna. But what is her awareness? Everywhere it is the same Krishna. Omnipresence, an omniscient entity, omnipresent, and full devotion to that. Knowing and bhajanam, jnanam and bhajanam, they go together. To facilitate this kind of an awareness, and you and me, we who are sadhakas, is this chapter. So let us understand the importance of the 10th chapter, where Sri Krishna is presenting to us the different divine manifestations. For what? So that you and I can be established in this kind of a vision in an unbroken manner, and we can be devoted to it. So that we can fix our mind, we can meditate on the supreme reality in an unbroken manner. Parichintanam is the word. Not only chintanam, but parichintanam. Chintanam means thinking better, meditating. in this context, it should be taken as meditation. Meditation not only when we go to the temple. No, the temple-centered view of divinity should be transcended. If we are all real spiritual aspirants, the temple-centered idea of divinity is good in the beginning. That is needed for most of the people. We need it. But we need to transcend it and we need to grow. And our idea of divinity is no more temple-centered. Every creature, everything is a temple where the divine is residing. This is what is Vibhuti, omnipresence of the divinity. So, Sri Krishna is speaking about these beautiful divine manifestations in order to facilitate this kind of unbroken way the mind gets connected with the Supreme Reality. This is what actually we have been discussing. And the beautiful, different, he takes different items belonging to different categories, belonging to different spheres, not only to the human sphere. Many of these items don't belong to the human sphere. So that also actually, Krishna is hinting at one point that we should not be thinking that what is revealed to the senses, that much alone is the world. That itself is a big superstition with which most of the human beings are suffering from. A wrong view. No. World and existence and cosmos is not only what is revealed to the senses. There is much more beyond the senses. Different planes and spheres of existences are there. So Sri Krishna is taking items belonging to all the different spheres, and then he's telling you, see, these are the things where I am specially manifested. So in the 41st verse, the main principle was given. Yad vibhuti matsattvam Srimad urjitameva va tat tat tadevava gachatvam mama tejo ansha sambhavam. Sri Krishna says, you see, wherever you see vibhuti, majesty, manifested, majesty, somewhere you see, it is inexplainable. You can't just explain it. Some people, they radiate majesty. You just can't help it. It is there. It is divine manifestation. So wherever you see some special majesty, vibhuti, and Shri. Shri is what? Abundance. Abundance not only in material terms, qualities, whatever it is. So many good qualities. Some people radiate so much goodness. Divinity is specially present there. Urjitam. Urjitam means energy. Some people you see so energetic, never getting tired. Amazing energy. Understand that divine is good energy. Okay, constructive, good energy, not the devilish energy. Where you find this kind of an energy, know that I am specially present there. Tat tadevava gachatvam mama tejo ansha sambhavam. Krishna says that energy or abundance and majesty which you see in some entities, know that that is only one small drop, one small grain of my limitless majesty. So this is the principle in all the items which we studied since the last 6 or 7 classes. So let us go ahead and see what is the next item. The different items where the divinity is specifically and specially manifested, radiating in a special manner. What is that? You see. So we had finished verse 34, in which a beautiful verse 34, just to that one point I like very much. Mrityu sarva harashchaham. We should never forget this point. This we had discussed, just I am touching that point before I go to the next point. Death. Death is sarva hara. Shankaracharya says, dhana hara, kirti hara, you can take kirti hara, dhana hara, swasthya hara. If your health is lost, something is lost. Your fame is lost, something is lost. These things will take away certain things from your life. But Mrityu is that which is sarva hara, which snatches away everything. All those things which we are clinging to so madly, everything is snatched away in one moment. Death. So beautiful. That also I am. It is a great reliever. I just want all of you to remember death is a great reliever. This doesn't mean that we are going to commit suicide. Okay. Don't misconstrue my statement. But it is a great reliever. Just imagine if you are lying on the bed sick, severely sick, suffering from unbearable physical pain, death comes as a great reliever. It's not a permanent mukti. At least from that structure you are relieved. Again, you will get another structure that is a different point. But Prityu Sarvaharshcha. Prityu is our friend. Not to be afraid of or scared of. It is something divine. If life is divine, death is also divine. So that fear of the death has to go away from our head. It's a beautiful thing, which was stated in the last verse. Now, going ahead. Verse number 35, Sri Krishna says, Bruhat Sama Tatha Samnam Gayatri Chandasamaham Masanam Margashirshoham Ritunam Kusumakaraha. So beautiful. If you all remember, in one of the earlier verses, it was mentioned that Vedanam Samavedosmi. Is it not? In one of the earlier verses, it was mentioned, among all the four Vedas, Rig, Sama, Yajur and Atharva, among these four Vedas, I am Sama. Why Sama? Sama is the only Veda which is used for chanting. It is connected with music, and music is always superior to prose. Music has got a special power to elevate the human mind to higher levels, to Samagana. So because of this chanting, which is the characteristic of the so-called Samaveda, Sri Krishna says, among the four Vedas, I am the Sama. And now he says, Brihat Sama Tatha Samna. And among all the Sama hymns, I am Brihat Sama. Brihat Sama means what? I am that most important Sama. There are different chants in the Sama Veda. Actually speaking, what is Sama Veda? Sama Veda is nothing but rig mantras used for chanting. That's all. Richas, rig mantras which is used for chanting becomes Sama. And mostly it is in praise of different gods and goddesses. And Indra, Varuna, Mitra, these are all Vedic gods, not as we understand today. In Vedic times, there was not all this Krishna, Rama, Hanuman, Lakshmi. These were not there. I won't say Lakshmi, but Shri was there, but not in the way it is understood. They are all in the seed form. Later on, these beautiful deities developed up. So essentially in the Vedas, in the Rig Vedas especially, we find the worship of the different forces of nature. These divinities called Indra, Varuna, Mitra. So among the different chants, Samavedic chants, he is saying, I am Brihat Sama. The very term Brihat means what? Something which is vast, great, and sublime. So this particular Sama, Brihat Sama, known as Brihat Sama, it's sublime. It's spiritually elevating. So among all the so-called Sama chants, I am Brihat Sama. Means that I am manifested more, it is more spiritually elevating. Gayatri Chandasam Aham Gayatri. Now, in poetry, there is always meter. Poems are always composed or written in meter. All the poets, even the English poem, everywhere meter will be there. Now, this is the oldest. Vedic literature is the oldest. So, in the Vedas, there are meter. These Vedic compositions, many of the Vedic compositions, they are composed in a certain meter. Different meters are there, which is known as Chandas. The technical name for the meter is Chanda. And this is one of the Vedangas. Vedangas means auxiliaries to the study of the Vedas. In fact, we cannot study the Vedas without the Vedangas. Little bit I am deviating, just 2 minutes. It may not concern with the main topic which is being discussed here, but just for the sake of our information, it is good to know. Vedas cannot be understood or even utilized without the Vedangas. There are 6 Vedangas. The 6 Vedangas are what? Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Chandas, and Jyotisha. Now, what do these 6 Vedangas actually deal with? Shiksha deals with pronunciation. In Vedas, Sanskrit, pronunciation is extremely important. Mispronouncing any Sanskrit word is supposed to be a crime, actually speaking. It is not acceptable. Sanskrit language is so scientific that you have to pronounce these words as they are exactly written without any distortion. So Shiksha itself is a science of pronunciation. There is a very elaborate study and discipline of how to pronounce these wonderful Sanskrit alphabets and words. Now, if you have to chant Vedic mantras, you should chant it with the right pronunciation. So there is one auxiliary science which is known as Shiksha. Now, Kalpa. What is Kalpa? Kalpa is the rules of performing Vedic rituals. If you have to perform Vedic rituals, you have to use Vedic mantras. And if you have to use Vedic mantras, you should know how to pronounce it. So, Kalpa deals with the rules of how to perform a certain kind of karma kanda, puja. Now, actually, all our puja paddhati which we have, these are all Vedic only. In the temples, whatever puja paddhati you see, which was revived by Shankaracharya 1200 years back, and he simplified it. But it has all got Vedic roots, Vedic karma kanda roots, the basic principles of all the puja, vidhis which we do, many things which we do, it is all from the Vedas. So, Kalpa deals with these rituals. So, Shiksha, Kalpa, and Niruktam. Niruktam is what? Niruktam deals with etymology. Etymology means the science of knowing the roots of every word. This is very scientific. Sanskrit language is so scientific. Every word emerges from its root word. And if you go to the root, it is all Om only. It is from Om that all the word sounds appear. It's like that. Anyhow, so Niruktam, Yaska's Niruktam is one of the most authentic book on Niruktam, on etymology. Now, without knowing the meaning, how can you understand what these Vedic mantras are telling about? So you need to know the meaning. You need to understand etymology. Then, Chandas. This Chandas is what is being referred to here. Chandas means a meter. If you are going to chant something, it has to be chanted in a certain manner, certain rhythm. There are certain places where you have to stop. There are certain places where you have to elongate. All this is a complete science of pronunciation and chanting. Chandas. That is also a very extensive science in the Vedas. Then comes Vyakarana. Now, without Vyakarana is grammar. Without knowing grammar, how are you going to understand the meaning of these Vedic words? So, Vyakarana is needed. And we all know Panini's Vyakarana, the masterpiece. The world has never seen such a manifestation of a human intellect. This is the way how Panini's grammar is being described. It is the greatest production of a human intellect, Panini's grammar. Today, modern so-called, even the computer scientists, they say that this is something amazing. It's pure mathematics, actually. I don't want to go into the details of that. Vyakarana. And the last is Jyotisha. Jyotisha is what? It is the calendrical calculation. Understanding the importance of certain time when the rituals can be performed. So this Jyotish Shastra is required to understand when a certain Vedic ritual, when it can be performed. So one has to have the knowledge of Jyotish. Jyotish deals with the calculation of time. Now you see, we are talking about Vedas. What is this time period? At that time, we had complete knowledge of mathematical calculations. Please understand this point. Maths was born in India. It is from here that it went to all other parts of the world. Maths, literally, algebra, geometry, trigonometry, this is not an exaggeration. This is not an emotional talk. It's a fact. Everything was in the Vedas. Vedic mathematics today is very much popularized. It is from here that the very numerals went to the West and the Europe through Arabian world. That's a different thing. Anyhow, so these are the Vedangas, out of which Chandas is one. So, Among all the different chandas, coming back to the main point, I'm sorry, I just deviated for 2 minutes just to make you understand the glory of Vedas. Vedas are the most scientific thing in the world. It is not some mumbo jumbo. So, anyhow, Sri Krishna is saying that among all the chandas, I am the chanda called Gayatri. Now, here Gayatri doesn't mean that Gayatri mantra, okay? Many people, it can be interpreted that way also. But actually, it doesn't mean that Gayatri mantra, which usually is chanted like Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha, Tat Savitur Varenyam, not that one. This does not refer to that one. This refers to that meter. Now, the speciality of Gayatri Chanda is that this Gayatri Chanda is a meter which has got 24 syllables. 24 syllables divided into 3 lines, 3 padas, each pada having 8 syllables. In all, there will be 24 syllables. In this way, there are different kinds of chandas. Like Gita, most of the Gita verses, they are composed in Anushtubh chanda. Anushtubh, Trishtubh, Jagati, Gayatri. These are all the different meters having different number of syllables and rhythm, actually speaking. Even the tune changes. This Anushtubh chanda, it is chanted in a certain way. Gayatri will be chanted in a different rhythm. So, Sri Krishna is saying that among all the chanda, I am this chanda called Gayatri, which has got 24 syllables divided into 3 padas. Beautiful. It doesn't mean the Om Tat Bhur Bhuvaswa, not that actually, but that is in Gayatri chanda. So, among all the chandas, I am Gayatri. Masana Marga Shirshoham. Among all the months, I am the month of Marga Shirsha. Marga Shirsha means the month of November, December. Roughly speaking, according to the Gregorian calendar, it refers to November, December. And this month is supposed to be very sacred. Sacred spiritually and very important agriculturally. So the Vedic society was an agrarian society, especially it was an agrarian society, where in November, December, when the harvest is over, one agricultural cycle comes to an end, and from there starts the abundance. It is a season of abundance starts from there. In Marga Shirsha, or it is also known as Agrahayana. In this Agrahayana, the season of abundance starts from there. Abundance. So wherever abundance is there, it is my manifestation. So among all the months now, Marga Shirsha is going to come now. That month is special and sacred for all purposes, even for spiritual purposes. It is stated that spiritual aspirants, especially, they try to do more sadhana in this month. Of course, we need not wait for Marga Shirsha to come, okay? We have to do it always. Otherwise, we will say, okay, let us wait for Marga Shirsha to come. It's not like that. We have to do it always. So, Masanam Marga Shirshoham. And Ritunam Kusumakara. Among all the Ritu seasons, I am Kusumakara, means Vasanta Ritu. So beautiful. Why? Vasanta Ritu is that season in which the entire nature blossoms. Again, it's blooming. It's abundance. It's manifestation. Among all the seasons, the spring season is the one in which you find divine specially smiling. Everywhere divinity is smiling in the form of flowers and leaves and trees and dews and everything. Nature is simply in its best. So, Masanam Vasanta Rituham. So, this is the word beautiful. Kusumakar. Kusum means actually flower. Kusum, where the flowers bloom. So, Ritunam Kusumakara. The next point is difficult to digest. Krishna says, Dyotam Chalayatam Asmi Tejas Tejasvinamaham Jayosmi Vyavasayosmi Sattvam Sattvapatamaham. This point is difficult to digest. Dyotam Chalayatam. Chalayatam means in all those fraudulent people, those who are experts in cheating others, that which is seen in the society as fraudulent or deceitful, In that, I am expressed, specially expressed in the form of Dhyutam. Now, Dhyutam, Dhyutam means gambling. So, gambling, you may say a play of dice, or different ways of gamblings we have. So, I am specially manifested in that. How do you understand this point? Is it not? But this is what is Advaita. Let us understand one point very clearly. In this so-called cosmos, everything is manifested from Brahman, consciousness, good as well as bad. What is the definition of evil? How do we understand what is evil? Evil is nothing but a distorted manifestation of Brahman is what evil is. When Brahman or consciousness is manifested in a distorted manner, that takes the form of evil. But even in that, it is Brahman. And in the proper straight manifestation of Brahman manifests in the form of good. Is it not? It is just like light getting refracted or coming straight. Refracted light, it goes in some other direction. But a light which comes straight, it is of one kind. Light in two states. It is the same divinity. Divinity distorted is evil. Divinity undistorted is what is good. So both good and bad, they are all divinity and divinity alone. So in the society, all the evils which we say, it is nothing but the distortion of divinity, which expresses itself in the form of evil. So fraudulence, cheating, this is all nothing but that supreme divinity manifesting in a distorted manner. That's all. So in that also, just imagine if somebody is playing a game of dice, he is an expert in gambling. Even there, some expertise is there. Even that requires a lot of skill. Those who are playing the game of dice or say, different ways of gambling, I did not go into the details of that. But in that also, a lot of skill and intelligence is required. But they are doing it for wrong purposes. So their divine is manifested in a distorted manner. So I am there in that form. So one of the principles we should understand in the so-called Hindu way of looking at the cosmos, here everything has got consciousness as its basis. Good as well as bad. Dharma as well as adharma. They are all nothing but the manifestations of the same reality in and through the prism of Maya. That's all. Maya is that prism in and through the so-called the light of consciousness is getting radiated, either in the form of good or in the form of evil. That's all. So nothing is disconnected with the divine. That is the principle. What we have to catch from this point, Dhyutam Chalayatam Asmi, the inner point that we have to capture is that here nothing is disconnected from consciousness. Let us not forget this point. There is no, entity here which is not connected with consciousness. Now, in all monotheistic systems, this is not the case. First of all, in all monotheistic systems, God is separated from this world is separate, God is separate. And what is evil? Evil is third entity called Shaitan or Satan. This is all mumbo jumbo. You can't account for it. So this is the Vedic view of the so-called human society where good and bad, both are the manifestations of the same divinity. So this changes our vision and the way of looking at things. Seeing the same divinity manifested everywhere in different manners, in the way of good and in the way of bad. Now again, how are you going to? This doesn't mean that Sri Krishna is praising fraudulence. No, he is not praising fraudulence. He is only making us understand that here I am existing in everything. Even in the most evil, inside if you go, you will find the same consciousness residing. That is the point. It is not in praise of so-called gambling. It is just to make us understand that here at the core of everything, it is nothing but divinity and divinity alone. Evil should be resisted. Again, I am telling, we should always take the side of dharma and face adharma. There can never be any friendship with the evil. But even there also, our vision should not be wrong. Even there, our vision should be that it is the same divinity manifested in a distorted way. But you should resist that manifestation. You take the stance of dharma and face adharma in the so-called transactional plane. This should be the philosophy of life of you and me. So, Dyutam Chalayatam Tejas Tejasminamaham. Shankaracharya says here, Teja, Tejasvinam. Here, Tejasvinam means what? Among the strong and mighty. Some people are very strong. Strong need not be only in physical sense, in so many sense. So in them, that irresistible kind of a command which we see, power. Some people are very powerful. That I am there. Among those so-called very strong people, it is I who am present in the form of that irresistible dominance and command. Wherever you see such power manifested, it is Tejaha Tejasvinamaham. Otherwise, we can understand it in slightly different way. Shankaracharya defines this, explains these terms in this way, that among these mighty people, I am existing there in the form of that irresistible command or dominance. Or it can be understood as Teja means what? Splendor. Among those people who are splendorous, I am there in the form of splendor. Right. Jayosmi, and I am the victory. Wherever anybody who is becoming victorious, you should know that I am there in the form of the victory. So whenever in the life we have become victorious, in any situation, we all have tasted victory in different situations, so nothing to be proud about it. It is this divinity which is there in the form of victory. Everything, it is divine and divine. Suppose if you become victorious in something, some competition or anything, if you are a cricketer, if you win a cricket match, I am there in the form of victory, that Jayosmi. And see, here Jaya always come from Dharma. Yata, Yato Dharma, Tato Vijaya. This is the principle of the Vedas. Yatho Dharma, Tato Vijaya. Jaya will be there where Dharma is there. This is the principle. So, I am there in the form of victory among the victorious. And Vyavasayosmi, among those people who are perseverant, hard-working. Tremendous tenacity is seen in these people. Some people, when they are doing certain work, they won't give up till they see the end of that work. Vyavasaya means tremendous effort. Whenever you see in some people this kind of a tenacity to attain something, it is I who am present in the form of that perseverance or that tenacity, that bulldog tenacity to keep on doing till I reach the end of that pursuit. So Vyavasayosmi. Everywhere Sri Krishna is changing our vision. We can see bringing down divinity into our own levels. You can see some hard-working people. The divinity is manifested there. Sattvam Sattvapatamaham. And those sattvic people, the people who are sattvic, and sattva guna manifests in the form of jnana, vairagya, goodness, all good virtues, good qualities, self-control. These are all the manifestations of sattva guna. I am that sattva in the sattvic person. Sattvapatam, sattvam aham. Among those sattvic people in whom all these good qualities are manifested. Some people are very sattvic. All goodness is manifested. They practice self-control. In them they have this jnanam. They have vairagya. All these are the qualities of sattva guna. So Sri Krishna is saying that it is I who am manifested in the form of the sattva guna in such people. Sattvam Sattvapatamah. Vrishninam Vasudevosmi Pandavanam Dhananjayah Muninam Apyaham Vyasah Kavinam Ushana Kavihi. And now Sri Krishna is saying, among the Vrishnis, Vrishnis is a certain race, Vrishni. In that Vrishni, Sri Krishna himself belongs to Vrishni, means the Yadavas, the Yadav Yadukula, the clan of Yadavas, Yadukula. which is also known as Vrishni. So he is saying, among the Yadavas, Yadukula, or the Vrishnis, I am that. He himself is telling. Vasudeva. Vasudeva means son of Vasudeva. Vasudeva is the son of Vasudeva. So, Sri Krishna, one thing we should remember, whenever Sri Krishna is saying I, he is referring to himself as Parabrahman, nothing else. Parabrahman manifested in a certain form. So in the Yadukula, among the Vrishnis, it is I. Vrishninam Vasudevosmi, and then what? Pandavanam Dhananjaya. And among the Pandavas, the 5 brothers, Arjun, you are that. I am manifested as you. It is that Pandava, this Dhananjaya himself is a special manifestation. Because so many wonderful qualities you can see in Arjuna, isn't it? He was an amazing person. He was the greatest warrior of his time. The only one person who could supersede him was Karna. Otherwise, there was no one on this planet to challenge Arjuna. He was the greatest of his time. So that I am there. Among the Pandavas, I am Arjuna, that greatest Kshatriya, whom no one could defeat, except one. Karna was the only one exception for some reasons. So beautiful. So, Pandavanam Dhananjaya. So he is telling about himself and Arjuna. As the Vrishni Yaduvanshi, I am manifested Krishna, and among the Pandavas, it is you, Arjuna, you. In you, I am manifested. So beautiful. Muninam apyaham vyasaha. Then, among all the so-called wise people, Muni means wise, people with great wisdom, I am the Vyasa, one of the greatest intellect of all times. If you just look into the contribution of this one person called Vyasa, in fact, the entire Hindu Dharma is, what should I say? Should I say it is the gift of Vyasa? We have to. It's not an exaggeration. The classification of the Vedas, the 18 Puranas, Mahapuranas, Upapuranas, Mahabharata, everything. Gita itself is recorded by Vyasa. So what will you talk about this person? His contribution is simply invaluable. Everybody is commenting on the writings on the Vyasa. Even Shankaracharya. At the root is all Brahma Sutras. What will you talk about this person? His intellect, gigantic intellect, indescribable. So among all the wise people, Sri Krishna is saying, I am in the form of Vyasa, radiating intellect. Kavina Mushana Kavi, among the so-called Krantadarshis, the rishis, who can see the reality, I am Ushana. Ushana means Shukracharya. He's referring to great sage called Shukracharya. Sri Krishna is saying, I am Ushana, Shukracharya. Dando damayatam asmin, nitirasmi jagishatam, maunam chaivasmi guhyanam, jnanam jnanavatamaham. Beautiful point. Damayatam, dando. Damayatam means punisher, one who accords punishment to a wrongdoer, somebody who has done a severe crime against humanity. He has to be punished. Among all the punishers, I am there as a danda. Danda. What should I say? In modern context, you can say the law of the land, the criminal law of the land, and the punishment. It is divinity which is standing there. It is divinity which is there in the form of that law which punishes the wrongdoer, through which the justice is met. A society will collapse where there is no justice. Justice is the very basic of a healthy social fabric. We should not forget this point. Where there are wrong things going on, and if the victim is not getting justice, that too within the right framework, time framework, justice given 20 years later has no justice at all. Justice should be immediate. And this justice comes by the according of right kind of punishment. I am there in the form of that danda, punishment. So beautiful. So there also divinity is manifested. Because through that, justice is preserved. And when justice is maintained and preserved, the social fabric will remain healthy. Otherwise, it will just simply crumble and cripple. It will go out. So, dando damayatam asmi, niti rasmi, jigishatam. Jigishatam means those who desire to conquer. Jigishatam. Those who want to conquer. Conquer what? Anything you can take. But that conquering should be based upon niti, on higher values, on dharma. Conquering in an adharmic way, no, it is not acceptable. Wherever there is some kind of a conquest which has got dharma as its basis, I am there. Jigishatam niti. I am there in the form of niti, righteousness, dharma. So see, these are all the items of the transactional plane. Sometimes, now we can here use this term, jigishatam, conquest. The highest conquest is self-conquest. Conquering our own lower self is the greatest conquest. And that conquest comes through niti, by taking refuge or by taking the help of niti, dharma. Is it not? You can't conquer yourself without the help of higher values, spiritual values. So that higher value, I am there. Through me expressed as niti, the higher spiritual values, you conquer your own lower self. So niti rasti jigishatam, but this can be applied in other so-called transactional things also, where there is a conquest of one thing over the other. And when it is done through dharma, then I am there in the form of dharma through which that conquest has been accomplished. Niti rasmi jigishatam. Maunam chaivasmi guhyanam. Guhyanam. Guhyanam means guhya, that which is secret. Among the secret, I am existing in the form of silence. Maunam. It's a beautiful point. You see, when it comes to, secret, if you don't, a secret remains secret only as long as you don't open your mouth, is it not? If you open your mouth, that is no more secret. So, it is I who am existing in the form of silence to really, what should I say, in this realm of so-called secrecy. I am existing in the form of maunam. See, many things should not be spoken of. Everything cannot be spoken of. Certain things, it is good that it remains unspoken. So that capacity to keep silent, I am there in the form of that silent, not to reveal certain things. In society also, it is better not to talk about it. Everything need not be exposed. So, maunam chaivasmi guhyanam. And jnanam, jnanavatama. Among the so-called jnanavatam, the so-called persons of knowledge, it is I who am there in the form of knowledge. Some people who are so knowledgeable. What is that? It is I am in the form of knowledge. Now, we have the symbol of knowledge is Saraswati. So actually, if somebody is very jnani kind, nothing to be proud about it. That jnana doesn't belong to me as a person or you as a person. It belongs to divinity. Divinity manifesting in the form of jnanam. Everything comes. The point is, nowhere we have any occasion or room to be proud and arrogant. Any good quality that is there in you and me, it all has got its roots in divinity and divinity alone. It has got no other meaning. Means ultimately, humility will be the outcome of this kind of a vision. There's nothing to be proud about. I am such a this, such a. So, jnanam jnanavatama. Now comes the last three verses. Beautiful. In this way, Sri Krishna has been taking up different items, belong to different categories. Now, he can go on like this. Where is the end to it? Now, if you just count the number of items taken here, it may be some 15 or 20 items have been taken. Now, in this entire cosmos, you can just go on. Where is the end to it? Divine manifestation. There is no end to it. Sri Krishna is saying here. Yachapi sarvabhutanam bijam tadaham arjuna na tadasti vina yatsyan maya bhutam characharam nantosti mama divyanam vibhutinam parantapa esha tu deshatah prokto vibhuter vistaro maya. These two verses can be taken together. Let me take the 40th one first. Sri Krishna is saying, Nantosti mama divyanam vibhutinam parantapa. Hey Arjuna, there is no end to my divine manifestations. What I have spoken to you, esha tu deshatah prokto. What I have spoken to you, these are only one or two, a few samples. Vibhuter vistaro. This description of the Vibhuti, the description of the divine manifestations, what I have spoken to you, these are all just a few samples. Really speaking, my divine manifestation has got no end. You can go on and on and on and on. Where is the end to it? So, Nantosti mama divyanam vibhutinam parantapa esha tu deshatah prokto vibhutir vistaro maya. There is no end to my talk. And what? Yachapi sarva bhutanam bijam tadahma Arjuna. He is saying that, you see, of all the creatures, I am there as the bija, the very source from where all growth takes place. Shankaracharya says, Bijam refers to that source from where all growth and manifestation takes place. I am that Bijam. Yachapi sarvabhutana. All the creatures existing in this so-called cosmos, Bijam tad aham Arjuna. Hey Arjuna, I am that Bija residing in every being, that Bijam, that seed of growth. Just imagine here, every entity is growing, is it not? Nothing is static here. Everything is growing. What is that? It is an amazing thing. A plant grows, animal grows, every organism is growing. What is that growth? It is not simply chemicals. Sri Krishna is saying it is I who am the principle of growth, Bijam. It is not simply chemicals. Now, the problem with the modern scientific people is that they want to reduce everything to chemicals. It is consciousness, the Bijam, which makes everything grow. Minus that consciousness, nothing can exist. So, yachapi sarva bhutanam bijam tadaham Arjuna na tadasti vina yatsyan maya bhutam characharam. Sri Krishna is saying, without me, nothing can grow here. All this characharam bhutam, all this moving and non-moving so-called entities, na asti vina maya. They have no existence without me. You and me and all of us, every single insect, none of these entities have got any existence, astitva. They don't have any satta. Satta means existence without consciousness. Now I am reminded of two people, Shankaracharya and Sri Ramakrishna. First, let me take Shankaracharya. In his Isha Upanishad Bhashyam, he says, beautiful. Tad atmana vinirmuktah jagat asat sampadyate. Brilliant utterance. Without this Atman, this consciousness, this entire so-called cosmos which you are describing, this is zero. It has got no value. Everything has got value here only because of the presence of consciousness. Tad atmana vinirmuktah jagat asat sampadyate. This jagat will become zero. It is this Atman, consciousness, which is giving value to all these things. Sri Ramakrishna, he says, you can have hundreds of zeros. They have no value. Put one before it, every zero will add value to it. Both the teachers telling the same thing. What is that one thing which gives value to this? It is consciousness. It is Brahman. Sri Krishna, Shankaracharya, Ramakrishna. See the connectivity. All of them telling the same thing. Without this basis, without ocean, what value does bubbles and waves have? Can bubbles and waves even exist without ocean? They cannot. So Sri Krishna is saying here that yachapi sarvabhutanam bijam. It is I am who are existing in the form of the seed, the power of growth in all the entities, and without me, none of these things have got even existence. So, my dear Arjuna, there is no end to my divine manifestations because everywhere I am manifested. So, how long am I going to keep on describing about my divine manifestations? It is not possible for me to go on like this. Even you will become bored. So, let me stop here. Understand the principle. What I have spoken about in the 10th chapter, this is only a few samples taken from certain categories belonging to different spheres. And this is only meant to train us to see that it is divinity which is manifested everywhere. It is a training to see things correctly. Divinity is not only temple-centered. Temples are important. Again, I am saying everybody is not ready for this vision. So they need the help of the temples. But to remain confined to that vision alone will be the biggest mistake of so-called human life. Religion will start when we begin to see every entity as a temple where the divine is residing. This change of the vision is what actually is Adhyatma Vidya or Hindu Dharma itself. This is the central point of Hindu Dharma. To facilitate this kind of a growth from a temple-centered idea of divinity to the divinity which is manifesting everywhere. Ahamatma Godakesha Sarva Bhutashrayastitah. To come to this point is this entire, what should I say, arrangement, a scheme of life which has been created by our great rishis, so that everybody can grow from a very gross understanding of God to the most sublime understanding of divinity everywhere. So, Krishna is saying that there is no end to my divinity, divine manifestations. So, what I have spoken you is only a few samples taken from certain categories. Now comes that famous verse. Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam Srimad urjitameva va tattadevavagachatvam mama tejonsha sambhavam. Sri Krishna says, Yat yad vibhuti mat sattvam. No, everywhere I am manifested. But those things where you see extraordinary majesty, extraordinary abundance, and extraordinary energy, wherever you see these three things, yat yat vibhuti mat, shrimat, and urjitam, tat tadevava kachatvam. No, there in that very thing where you find extraordinary majesty manifested, extraordinary abundance and energy manifested, no, in that item what? Mama tejo ansha sambhavam. It is only a small trickle of infinite majesty of my own true self. So wherever you find special manifestations, you should understand. So this is changing our vision. Wherever you see brilliant talent, goodness, or different talents getting manifested, it is all a small grain, one small drop of that infinite majesty of divinity. Athava bahunaitena kim gyatena tavarjuna vishtabhyahamidam kritsnam ekanshena sthito jagat. Athava bahuna etena kim gyatena tavarjuna. Hey Arjun, he says, what is the need of your knowing this item like this endlessly? I am going on telling and you are listening. What is the point of simply extending this discussion like this, that I am manifested in this, I am manifested in this, I am manifested in this? Let us come to the conclusion. You're saying that, Athava bahuna etena kim gyatena. In this way, what is the point of knowing me in certain items? Come on, let us come to a conclusion. What is the conclusion? Vishtabhyahamidam Krishnam. Aham Krishnam Vishtabhya. This entire cosmos I am supporting. I am holding. This entire so-called whatever is manifested here, the consciousness is the supporter, the one which is the very base, one which is holding everything. The ocean, which is holding all the bubbles, all the waves. Vishtabhya means supporting. Idam Krishnam. this entire cosmos, or you may take the three avasthas, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, which is going on. That is what is everything. There is nothing beyond it. And all the three avasthas, it is, I am the support of all the three avasthas. Can these three avasthas exist without me? Impossible. It cannot. So, Vishtabhyaham idam Krishnam ekansh nacha. How is it supporting? Is it that the whole of Brahman manifested there? No. In the so-called Nam and Rupa, the whole of Brahman can never get manifested. It is impossible. The infinite cannot be limited or imprisoned in any name and form. Names and forms can have huge manifestation, but 100% manifestation is not possible. Every name and form, yes, there may be divine manifestation more or less, but full Brahman can never be manifested in and through any names and forms. So how is it manifested if not 100%? He is saying, Vishtabhyaham idam Krishnam ekanshena sthito jagat. My one small portion is manifested in the so-called entire jagat. In and through my one small portion, I am supporting the so-called the manifested world. My one small portion, my real thing is not known to anyone. That is infinite. It cannot be manifested in and through the names and form. In the Purusha Suktam, Pado asya vishwa bhutani tripadasya amritam divi says, once in and through my one pada, in and through my one small part, this entire world is being held. Tripada is the three-pada, the three-fourth of my real nature. It is beyond the manifestation, which can never be. So Brahman can never be manifested fully in and through names and forms, however divine that personality may be. Only a small portion, in and through a small portion of that infinite Brahman, this so-called Jagat is held. So just understand this much and let us stop here. Otherwise, how long are we going to go on with this description of this is divine, that is divine, this is divine, that is divine? Sri Krishna is saying, understand that this entire manifested world, in that my small portion alone is manifested in everything. My major portion is totally transcendental and it is not known. Understand this and let us wind up. So this is the end of the 10th chapter, a beautiful chapter. So beautiful. Every chapter of the Gita is so thrilling. If you really enter into it with open heart, you directly are made to come in touch with the reality, not in temple, here itself. This Shastras alone can do. No, this book can do, that book can do. Remember that. Other books can stimulate Vairagya. But the Samyak Darshanam and steadfastness in that Samyak Darshanam comes only from the Shastra and the Acharya. It cannot come from any other means. Repeatedly our great masters have said this point. So this is what is the 10th chapter, where we have seen the special manifestations of the divine, which is meant for facilitating a meditation, as I said, because we are all sadhakas. Meditation is an inseparable part of spiritual life. How to keep this mind constantly. If you have only a temple-centered idea of God, you cannot have connection with the divine always, because the moment you're out of the temple, you're disconnected. Is it not? But when you have this kind of a right understanding, you are never disconnected from the divine. This is a huge jump, a leap in our awareness, spiritual awareness. A spiritual awareness which is centered in one place and one form, to a spiritual awareness which has got no center or which has got center everywhere. This is a huge leap in human awareness, and this is expected. To facilitate that is this beautiful 10th chapter. So we end up, now the 11th chapter comes next, where this very subject continues in the form of Vishwarupa Darshanam. The cosmic form of the divine. Again, it's a cosmic form. This entire divinity manifested in the form of this cosmos. Another thrilling presentation we find in the 11th chapter. Sri Krishna will make Arjuna see the divine manifested in the form of this cosmos. It's Vishwarupa Darshanam, Virata Darshanam. It is the divinity consciousness which is here in the form of the Virat. That is a beautiful description which is going to come in the 11th chapter. So the 10th chapter ends here. We have one more Sunday, next Sunday, because after that I will be leaving for Mayavati. So next Sunday is the last class. So we will just summarize the 10th chapter in the next session. It will be summary of the 10th chapter. And when I come back from Mayavati in November, towards the end of November, we will start the beautiful 11th chapter. Let's get started. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat.